Welcome to the IT Career Energizer podcast. For anyone who wants to build and grow a career in IT, develop and improve your strengths and skills, be inspired and motivated by the successes of others, manage your career progression, and achieve your IT career goals. And now, your host, Phil Burgess.
Hi, Phil here, and welcome to episode 48 of the IT Career Energizer podcast, where I chat with inspiring IT professionals, consultants, and experts from around the world. If you want to get each new episode automatically downloaded as soon as it's released, simply subscribe to the show. And now let's chat with today's featured guest, Troy Hunt. Troy lives on the Gold Coast in Australia. He is a Microsoft Regional Director, a Microsoft Most Valuable Professional, and a Pluralsight author on web security and other technologies. Troy also travels the world, speaking at events and training technology professionals on how to build more secure software. So Troy, can I ask you to expand on that brief summary and tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Yeah, well, I think probably the first thing to explain to help, I guess, clear something up, which people often get wrong, is that I don't actually work for Microsoft. I have some nice Microsoft titles, but also I do find that most people who think I work for Microsoft usually spell Microsoft with a $ as well, and they're abusing me for something that Microsoft has done whilst telling me I work for them. So I'm not responsible for any of the bad things they do, and only partly responsible for some of the good things. So look, I am an independent who has some of these titles. I do a lot of blogging, a lot of online training, and as you said, I do a lot of traveling and speaking and running workshops and things around the world.
Okay. Can you maybe share a unique career tip that the IT Career Energizer audience need to know and maybe don't?
Well, I think the thing that resonates the most with me in terms of career tips goes back to the very first blog post I wrote, which is just over 8 years ago. And this blog post was about the value of having an online brand or profile, which I did not have at the time, but I thought it would be a good idea. And I actually explained it in terms of saying, look, I was hiring people at the time, and people would come along and they'd apply for a job, and that they'd be, say, a .NET developer. And that they'd send in their CV, and the CV says, "Oh, I'm awesome." It's like, well, of course you're awesome. It's your CV. That's what you do. And then you'd sort of interview them, and they go, "No, I'm really awesome. Yeah, check my references." And you check their references, and all the references would go, "Yeah, this person's awesome," because they're your references. You pick the people that are going to say you're awesome. And the point that I was trying to make is that I would love to have more sort of independent verification of how awesome someone is. I would love to be able to find their GitHub contributions or their Stack Overflow responses or a blog or a talk or something, not necessarily to sort of say that the person is some online megastar, but can I find anything to show that you have been doing what you say that you've been doing, and I can sort of go and independently verify it. So that's my tip. I love the idea of having some form of online identity, even if it's only minor, to show what you've been doing over a period of time.
Yeah, is there anything you'd advise somebody to maybe start with? Because obviously building a brand or a presence online can take a lot of effort.
It can, but there are degrees here, right? So, one of the things that was sort of very good for me was the blogging, and everything sort of stemmed from there. And the blogging was the sort of thing that I could do either at nights or weekends in very small amounts. It's also something I could do during work time. And the reason for that is that I was using blogging as a way to document a lot of what I was doing, and also as a way of actually learning new technologies. So I've actually got a talk online that I've done a couple of times this year called Hack Your Career. If you Google my name, Hack Your Career, you'll find it. And in there, I talk about sort of leveraging effort. And one of the things that was very useful for me is when I was, I'll give you a good example. I was rolling out Team City for continuous integration in my old place of work. And I didn't really understand it. I had to learn a lot of it from the ground up. So what I did is I wrote a 5-part blog series. And as I was learning and writing, the writing was forcing me to learn it in more depth and to become more proficient at it. And when I eventually left the company and I had to do the handover, I said, well, okay, look, here's the documentation. It's on troyhunt.com / and it's all there. Now, of course, I didn't put internal information on there. That was documented internally. But the point about this being a way of getting started without necessarily taking a big chunk out of your time and also being in the organization's best interest, yeah, that made a lot of sense for me.
Yeah. Can you maybe tell us about your worst IT career moment and what you learned from that experience?
I think probably that the one that comes immediately to mind is I spent 14 years working for Pfizer. So
Yeah.
for those of you who don't know Pfizer, you probably know Viagra. We made Viagra, like the real one, not the fake rip-off stuff that you get in your junk mail. Anywho, so I spent a lot of time working there. And the first probably 5 years of that was as a contractor. And, as a contractor, you don't have job security in terms of certainty of employment beyond the contract period. You don't necessarily have career opportunities, etc. So they said to me, look, to take a permanent role, the world will be your oyster. You'll have all of these wonderful things happen. And it will only mean like a 25% pay cut. So I took the pay cut and I took the permanent role. And I think by the time I ended up leaving about 9 years later, I'd gotten back to the same level of pay. My CV looked better, but I really wasn't doing much different stuff. And what I guess realized upon reflection is that they never had any career path for technical people. It just wasn't going to happen. So I think right up until the point where I left, that felt like a very bad decision. And the only reason I had that caveat up to the point where I left is because I love what I do now. And I only get to do what I do now because I went through many years of miserable pain.
Yeah. Okay. Can you maybe take us now to your career highlight or greatest success and tell us about that?
Well, I guess to sort of put my current day life into perspective, there are so many different opportunities to speak, to work commercially, to travel, to sort of do whatever I want. These days, it's just enormously difficult to choose between things. But there's a couple of things that stood out this year. And one of them was I did a keynote for Pluralsight at the Pluralsight live event in Salt Lake City. This must have been about September. And I did a keynote on just a massive rock star stage, which was just the most epic environment, which felt awesome. And I also keynoted just before Michelle Obama on the same stage too. And I was like, man, this is awesome. Like I've just keynoted with Michelle Obama and, this is going to be like my 2017 highlight. And then the thing that came along and possibly superseded that, the way depending on how you look at it, is only a couple of weeks ago, I testified in front of US Congress in Washington, D.C. about data breaches. And this was kind of like, wow, I'm actually in the Capitol building. I was dressed up too, which is very unusual for me. And I was sitting there in front of congressmen and congresswomen and rubbing shoulders with the politicians you see on TV. And it was just like an otherworldly kind of experience of getting a glimpse into that sort of part of the world. So, yeah, between those two things, like I look back on the year that has been and I'm pretty happy with that.
Yeah, it sounds like you've had an exciting year.
Yeah, look, it was epic. And you always kind of go, what's going to happen next? And I guess the nice thing about life today is I don't know. It's almost always something really cool. And it's just cool things at levels beyond what I had ever expected.
So what excites you about the future of the IT industry and careers in IT?
I think it's a combination of things. I mean, one of the things I love about the technology industry in general, and particularly the information security space that I occupy a lot of, is that I just never know what's coming next. Like I sort of go, okay, I'm going to get up, go through my emails. Like things could have fundamentally changed overnight. So particularly for me, things like crazy data breaches, get up one day, oh yeah, Uber's been breached, and they hit it and they kind of got ransomed and they turned into a bug bounty. And it's just like, wow, what a crazy story. Or I'll get an invitation to go somewhere like the Congress thing, for example. So what excites me is that it changes so quickly and there are so many opportunities in there. I mean, really for everyone working in the information technology industry, it is just such a buoyant place to be. And this is really the future. And I think that's just a really cool thing to be a part of.
Yep. I totally agree with you, yes. We're going to move into the reveal round now. Are you ready for this?
Yeah, go for it.
So what first attracted you to a career in IT?
I was kind of bored. It's, well, and that's sort of partly the truth. So I think the first thing that genuinely got me interested is when I was 13. My family moved to the Netherlands, and that's cold there.
Yeah.
So for those of you in places like the UK, it's kind of like that. Like half the year you don't really want to be outside. So I started spending a lot of time inside on the PC, and it was, this was kind of early 90s era as well. We were just getting personal PCs and starting to do cool stuff. And I think I just liked, I liked I guess, the independence of what you could do and create with the computer. And over the years, as that's grown, that sort of manifested itself into things like I can sit at home in my PC and build a service like Have I Been Pwned, which just goes absolutely bananas. And it's just me, like one guy sitting at home with the cloud, and that's it.
What is the best career advice you've ever received?
I don't know that I've received a lot of great career advice. I think there's actually a very good question. I got to think about that. I think more like a general work ethic from my parents is probably something that's prevailed. Particularly my father was a pilot, and he had to work a crazy amount, especially over like the last 10 years of his career. He was commuting backwards and forwards from Asia to Australia the whole time and just spending weeks on end, nonstop flying in strange parts of the world. And I think that maybe that tolerance for lengthy periods of pain and hard work. But when I look at it today, most of what I do in my career is very non-traditional and self-made. I mean, I dropped out of university because I didn't like it. And mind you, some of the very, very great people in the world have done that too. And I'm not exactly Bill Gates, but I did notice that he and Larry Ellison and Steve Jobs all did that. We could go on and on, right? So a lot of it has just been I've just done what I thought was the right thing to do at the time, and I like the fact that it has not followed any sort of traditional trajectories, certainly over the last couple of years.
If you were to begin your IT career again right now, what would you do?
Look, I would still be in the sort of development space, but with that security orientation as well. I think when we look at the industry at the moment and we say, okay, where are there the greatest needs for people? Information security is just insane at the moment, and we see so much stuff going wrong the whole time that it just illustrates a major deficit of people. And in fact, even a couple of days ago, I was doing a talk for a company down in Sydney. And one of the things that dawned on me in the discussion we were having, they were sort of talking about previous speakers they'd had, and that they'd had some really well-known names. And they said, look, we got this guy in. I won't say who it is. Everyone knows him, but I won't say who. Got this guy in to do a talk, and it was a massive draw card. And then the guy was sort of really weird. Like, he had a lot of trouble presenting. He was very awkward with talking to people. And that the penny that sort of dropped for me is that there are very few people out there that have both technical competency and an ability to communicate. So if I was to sort of give someone advice now and say, where is there a need? Well, that is a massive thing. And look, we see this right across the board. This is not just necessarily in sort of speaking presentation circuits, but I would see this in the corporate environment where you would have a lot of smart people, but their ability to articulate technology and the value of it is often very poor. So I would say try and do those two things. Try and actually have technical depth and actually be able to talk.
Yes.
Those two things together are rare.
What career objectives are you focusing on right now?
Look, it's a funny thing. I haven't been thinking a lot about objectives in recent times because I've sort of, just for a sense of context, it was April 2015 that I left corporate life. And I left on a redundancy, which is nice because a redundancy is when they ask you to leave and they have to give you money to go. It's not like, it's not getting fired where they don't give you anything. It's not walking out where you don't get anything. So about 4 of us got redundancy packages. And the reason I make that point is because when they give you money to go, you've got buffer. So you can now sort of go, okay, well, what do I want to do?
Yep.
And I didn't waste any time. I just jumped straight into, I guess, accelerating more of what I'd been doing anyway and actually turning into commercial opportunities. And that was sort of my real focus. So I spent the last 2.5 years going, all right, how do I make sure that I have more courses online, that I can run these workshops, that I can do things to be self-sustaining and live a good life? And beyond that, I haven't really thought about it. And the discussion actually my wife and I started to have now is it's like, okay, this is like far better than what we ever imagined it could possibly be. What now? Because I don't really want to be traveling around the world the whole time either. So no, you've made a good point. You've reminded me I need to get some more objectives. But in fairness, I think one of the sort of overarching objectives that's prevailed across 20 plus years of professional work as well is that I love the idea of independence and being able to have confidence that I don't have to work if I don't want to, or I can work from wherever I want. So a lot of it at the moment is about building up that independence, and a lot of that is about everything from building brand and reputation to obviously building money and investments and other things that allow me to not work if I don't want to.
Sure. You may have partly answered the next question, but I'll ask it anyway. What's the number one non-technical skill that has helped you in your career so far?
Oh, communication. How about that?
Yeah. Well, that might be.
But look, in all seriousness, this is what it is. And that is something which will prevail across careers as well. I mean, if you can communicate clearly with people, if you can be structured in your conversations, if you're comfortable standing up in front of people and talking. I know a lot of people, people such as my wife, will do things like in the past she's done Toastmasters and other events that teach you to speak. I've never done that in any formal capacity. I've just looked at people who I admired and who I thought did a very good job of it.
Yeah.
And in fact, if you want to have a look at some of these people, I remember going back many years, some of the people that influenced me a lot were people like Scott Hanselman. So he's a very sort of Microsoft-centric guy, but a very good speaker. And what I took away from him is particularly how comfortable and casual he appears to be. And it's like, dude, you're going off script. You're not always on the slides. What's happening? This is crazy. But, that made him a very, very likable, approachable guy in terms of the way he talks. Another one that's really good to watch is a guy called Mikko Hyppinen, who's a security guy. Another very large following, and I really like the way he tells stories. He's got these great stories of personal experience in his talks. And the other thing that he does that always strikes me as unique is he's really comfortable just not saying anything, just having long silences. Like he'll say something and he'll pause. It's like, what's he doing? What's going to happen next? It's like, well, he's actually just pausing for impact, and it's working. Because we do tend to rush quite a bit too. So I would say look at those people and watch their talks and see what it is about what they do that is impactful. And even if you don't necessarily want to be a public speaker per se, you have opportunities the entire time to influence people by the way you present. Now, maybe that's your boss or your peers. Maybe that's in a job interview. All of these things are very important points where you've got to be able to communicate.
Yep. Troy, can you share a parting piece of career advice with the IT Career Energizer audience?
Look, I think probably the thing that's made a lot of difference to me is just an ongoing passion for what I do. I appreciate there are a lot of people out there that want to go to the office at 9 o'clock, do their job, go home at 5 and spend time with their families or do something completely different. But the thing that's made this a very fulfilling career for me and indeed for many other people is that I genuinely love the technology and what I do. And I'm happy to get up early, stay up late, weekends, holidays, get involved in this. And this is not necessarily at the sacrifice of family and all that sort of thing, but it's like in my spare time when I want to do something for my own fun, it might be writing some code or a blog or something like that. And I think if you can have a passion for it, and you can find a job that allows you to exercise that passion, suddenly life becomes a whole lot happier.
Yep, it absolutely does. And finally, what's the best way we can find out more about you and possibly connect with you?
So troyhunt.com, pretty much all roads lead from there. I'm very active on Twitter as well. That's probably my main communication platform, and I'm on there at Troy Hunt.
Troy, thank you so much for joining me on the IT Career Energizer podcast today. It's been great chatting with you.
Yeah, my pleasure.
My thanks to Troy for joining me on today's show. You can find full show notes at itcareerenergizer.com/E48. In the next episode, I'll be talking with Duncan Hunter, who is a software architect and a mentor at firebootcamp.com. You can get this and other future episodes automatically downloaded and available to play by simply subscribing to the podcast in iTunes, Stitcher, or whichever streaming service you're using to listen. Thanks for listening, and remember, if you're not growing your career, you're slowing your career. Have a great week.
Thanks for listening to the IT Career Energizer podcast. To find out more about building a successful career in IT, visit itcareerenergizer.com.